We got work to do.
Welcome to Highway to Hell, a supernatural podcast. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Christine.
And this week we're discussing Season 6, Episode 9, Clap Your Hands If You Believe. I was trying to say that really happy, but I felt silly.
Couldn't fake it.
Oh, no, I can't fake being happy.
You can't fake anything.
Yeah, we've talked about my acting skills before.
Also, just in awkward situations when she's like trying to be really nice to somebody and doesn't like them. It's not. It doesn't go well.
It doesn't. No, I've definitely like just walked away from situations because I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be having this conversation.
I don't want to talk to you. I'm gonna go.
Well, this episode, if you guys don't remember, is the one where that doesn't sound right with the sentence that's about to come out of my mouth. Because this is what the IMDb description is. While Sam and Dean are investigating a possible alien abduction, Dean is abducted from a crop circle. However, after he escapes, the brothers discover they aren't dealing with aliens, but fairies.
Yeah. So this episode was like really different.
Yes. Yeah,
Super
it was a very
different.
special episode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I liked it overall. I also liked it because the actor who played the leprechaun at the end plays the doctor on Star Trek Voyager, and he's like one of my all-time favorite Star Trek characters.
Oh,
I
so
love
funny.
he's so funny in that show. Like he plays like he's really deadpan and everybody pisses him off and he's really snarky and it's just hilarious. So he's a great actor.
That's so funny. I
Yeah.
can't imagine him being like just a fun character. Is that like basically what this doctor is?
Yeah, he's kind of the plucky comic relief, but like at his own expense because the premise is that Star Trek Voyager, their ship gets launched by this space being like millions and millions of light years from where they're supposed to be, and it's going to take them like 70 years to get home or something. And so they get thrown out into space, and a bunch of people on board die, including their actual human doctor. And he's the hologram backup doctor. And they have to use him the entire time they're out at space. And so people keep turning him on for help, and then they'll leave the sick bay and leave him on. And he's like, "Can somebody turn my program off? That'd be great." Like, what the hell?
This show sounds insane.
Welcome to space, baby.
Yeah, and we got a lot of space talk in this episode also.
Yeah, we did.
No, I thought he was great. I also really like this episode. It took me a bit to realize like, oh, wait, Sam and Dean are playing like exaggerated versions of themselves in this episode.
Oh, you're so right. I thought they were different. Yeah.
You know, because
it was super different that way.
yeah, at first I was like, wait, what is going on here? And no, I don't think we've actually seen them be like that since, I don't know, maybe like Yellow Fever when Dean is like super scared of everything, or I'm thinking about there's this another episode I think in season 2 where at some point Dean jumps into Sam's arms because he's so scared or something.
Yeah,
it's just really silly, you know. So
yeah.
No, I do really like this episode. I remember upon first watching it though that I was really excited that there were possibly aliens and then just completely let down that there wasn't.
Me too. Well, I mean, this was my first time watching it, so I kind of had that experience. I was like, oh man, that's like the ultimate supernatural. Are we getting into aliens? And it seemed very promising. Um,
Yeah.
but I also ended up, I mean, even though I had that initial reaction, by the end of the episode, I ended up really liking the fairy thing because that deals with a whole other type of magic and like
Mhm.
supernaturalness. And that opens up a whole other world.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because the world of the fairies that I think that at some point they call it something with an A, but yeah,
Mm.
totally different from Earth.
Yeah. We got like little gnomes and goblins and shit.
Right. And as Wayne, the leprechaun says, uh yeah, it's not our devil. So
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. We can totally get into that cage and get your soul out. So, wow, some
Crazy.
powerful shit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I liked all that.
for sure.
And all the
Um,
tiny men drinking cream out of large bowls.
oh god. It's funny and I my memory may be faulting me here, but it's very very similar to a scene in the leprechaun um episode of Charmed. It's a very
Oh.
there's a very similar scene like that, I believe, and that's probably, like, one of the worst episodes of Charmed, that I can remember, um, but yeah, it's
Nice.
pretty funny. So some really interesting thing that happened around the time when this came out. So let's see, this episode actually aired November 19th, 2010, and apparently on the night it aired, hashtag fight the fairies trended on Twitter. Um, but there was some confusion because some people on Twitter thought the hashtag was a homophobic slur.
Stop.
So yes, yes, this actually happened, and so this is on Supernatural Wiki, and they actually have a screenshot of, for example, one tweet that says Supernatural fans making Twitter think that we're homophobic Satanists since 2005. Hashtag fight the fairies, and then Gay News Source also tweeted. Hashtag fight the fairies is not a slur. It is about a TV show. No worries. Love the show.
Oh my
So, yeah.
god. I'm just gonna shut that down real quick.
Yeah, for real. There was actually something really similar that happened back at the end of season 4, or actually, I'm sorry, it was the beginning of season 5, right before the show aired. We might have talked about it, where a hashtag Lucifer is coming was trending on Twitter because of Supernatural fans.
And they riled up a bunch of Christians.
Yes, that were like, what is going on? These teens and their Lucifer, they're calling him and this and that. And yeah, apparently ever since then, like God and the devil, like you can't hashtag that in Twitter, apparently. So
That's so crazy.
Supernatural is just breaking the internet.
Again.
um, well, and this episode was written by Ben Edlund and directed by John F. Showalter. So
Hmm.
some regulars from the show, we love them both.
Yeah.
Of course, we do have people who have worked on X-Files work on this show. Because of that, a lot of influence has gone from X-Files into Supernatural. And I think we talked a lot about that in season 1, even.
Yeah. We did. And there were some references in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't catch them all because I have never seen X-Files. At least not all of it. I've seen a few season 1 episodes, and some here and there as like my parents watched them.
Hmm.
Um, But did you we've definitely talked about this, but haven't in a while. Did you watch X-Files?
I have, but I haven't watched all of it. I've watched more than season 1. I think I got to 2 or 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So I watched a fair amount and enjoyed it. I just kind of fell off like everything else I do. I start things and don't finish them. Hi, my name's Christine. Um, but it was good, and I did catch some of the references, but there may have been more it's been a long time since I've watched it too, so I wouldn't be surprised if I missed some just because it's been so long.
Yeah, I think the biggest ones and those that really helped explain things to me were Dean's exclamation of "Fight the fairies" is actually reminiscent of the first X Files film. So I guess,
Oh.
oh, I'm sorry, the first X Files film, which is called "Fight the Future,"
Oh,
so it's referenced
okay.
that way. I know they're not actually saying like "Fight the fairies, fight the fairies."
Yeah.
Um, okay, and then the whole spilling the salt thing, and the leprechaun has to start counting each grain,
Mhm.
which was so ridiculous.
Hilarious. That was so funny. He's like, dang it.
I hate you. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it was so funny. Well, apparently in season 5, episode 12 of the X Files, Bad Blood, Mulder spills sunflower seeds to stop the vampire. In this episode, vampires must stoop to count each grain. So that's directly from X Files.
That's so funny.
Crazy. I know. Um,
There were a lot of other good references too.
yeah, I hope you point them out as we get through
Okay, I'll
the
try and remember
episode.
all of them. I've got a few, I think.
Um, well, that's really all the production info that I have, but did you want to talk about some David Bowie or anything like that?
Girl, you know I want to talk about some David Bowie.
Hell yeah.
Um David Bowie. An ode to Bowie. Where do I begin? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. Thanks to Supernatural Wiki, let me list all of the songs we had in this episode. We had All That For Me by Chris Jones, which plays at the beginning of the episode. Country with Bump by the Neil Nelson Band, which plays in the bar while Dean is being abducted. And then Space Oddity by David Bowie. And this plays in the motel room when Dean and the little Tinkerbell fairy are fighting.
Yeah.
Which was a hilarious scene, too.
It was pretty great. Yeah. I mean, I really like the way they use the song just because it starts out really softly and I don't really know if it was supposed to be a part of the scene. Like, is Dean hearing the song and
Yeah,
that's
I don't
where he's
know. Or is it just like in
right?
the background and it's for us? It was kind of funny. I was like, is this the abduction song? Or...
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade. And the papers want to know.
Yeah, they're like, these humans, we know they like this.
Let's just lull them with some David Bowie while we abduct.
Yeah, we'll get them.
Yeah. So
mhm.
this song came out in 1969, and it first came out as a single, and then let me see. There's so much history of this song. I'm not gonna play it all or read it all, but the song was inspired by Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Which is beautiful. Beautiful movie, beautiful song about a character that David Bowie made up named Major Tom. It was Bowie's first single to chart in the UK. It reached top 5 in its initial release and received the 1970 Ivor Novello Award for Originality. It's been played in so many different things. It's, if you haven't heard this, you've been living under a rock. I don't know what to tell
Mhm.
you. But I just love David Bowie in general, so I would tell you to go listen to everything he's ever made.
Yeah. It's funny, even though we've had a lot less music in these seasons, really, these past few seasons,
True.
we've had these really like I don't know, because I go back to like Bella Lugosi being used in the past episode, and that's like a really big song, and this is a really big song. So
Yeah, that's a good point. I was kind of shocked once it started playing because they usually don't get songs that big in these, yeah, in these episodes. And I was like, what? How did they get the rights to this David Bowie song?
yeah, exactly. It's like they totally upped their budget, but or maybe they didn't up their budget, but they were like, you know what, we're just gonna spend it on like one song versus like five songs.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, but
Well, good choice.
yeah, definitely. Very good choices. Um, all right. Yeah, David Bowie's awesome. Perfect way.
Starman.
Ugh, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so this episode starts in a very weird way. Very different. It's like off the bat, okay, this is a strange episode. Um, before we started, we do get a little bit of recap of like very suspenseful music of Lisa and Dean's broken relationship, Sam's soullessness, which apparently means that he doesn't even care about Dean, which he revealed at the end of the last episode. So the episode starts in Elwood, Indiana, and already it's like the name of the location is being typed out, which they do on X Files.
Yeah.
Very cool. And even has like the typewriting noises too. It's pretty cool. We see some teens make out in the middle of a cornfield when they hear a noise. Patrick, the teen guy, goes into the corn to investigate, and the girl follows after him. And we see Patrick emerge into an open spot and look up, and a bright light shines on him, and he disappears. The girl emerges also, but Patrick is totally gone, and the open space we can see is a crop circle as it zooms out. And we get the credits, which are now like X Files style,
Yes.
creepy music, floating green men across a dark background.
And like really hilarious like music over like shots of the guys like doing their investigation and
Yeah, exactly. Like all of the shots of the guys too are like being badasses. I
showing a fake badge.
yes, exactly. Or like I think they have the one where Sam is like taking off his sunglasses in that. I think that's from one of the Trickster episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
very cool.
I'd
And then
forgotten about
okay,
that. I thought maybe they shot that part of it just for this, but you're totally right.
yeah, I think it was from that. Um, and then of course, like the X Files catchphrase is "the truth is out there," but instead, this credits ends with "the truth is in there," which is.
I was like, "What?"
I know, I was really trying to find some meaning to that, like, what are you talking about? Like,
It
what?
sounded kinda gross. I didn't know what that meant.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's like a butt joke, a butt probing joke or something. Um, so we start the episode, after the credits with a series of interviews with local townsfolk reporting that the entities are taking people. So they're talking straight into the camera. And one of them is Wayne Whitaker Jr., who apparently is the one doing the interviews. He's personally recording all of these accounts of missing people. So they're all talking about Patrick, who has disappeared. And it's funny because like one of the girls who we see later, the hippie chick, it's like she wasn't even there but actually it's the blonde woman who's like talking about this. She
Mm.
was not there when Patrick disappeared, but she's talking as if like she saw it with her own two eyes. So it's very ridiculous. And Wayne apparently says that we are right in the middle of what we call a UFO flap. Again, whatever that means.
Yeah, what? I don't know.
But one woman actually reports to Dean and Sam that it's not UFOs, it's fairies. So, and this is a
I
really
love
neat
this
trick.
lady.
I know she's on it. She knows what's up.
It's so funny.
But it is a very cool camera trick because she's at first like talking straight into the camera, and then the camera kind of like pans and she moves her gaze over to Sam and Dean, and we now see that actually she's not talking to the camera, she's talking to Sam and Dean. So it was a nice little transition.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam completely insults her and Dean has to like pull him away. He explains that the old Sam would have had some empathy for her. And Dean asks Sam to just fake it. But Sam says it's exhausting to fake it. Hey, it's exhausting to fake it. We were just talking about that.
I mean, if anybody knows, we do.
For real though. I
Empathize.
mean, it is so tiring to like
It
put
is.
a polite smile on your face and like be all blah 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 blah. Yeah, let's get the job done and this and that.
Yeah.
But until the time when they can get Sam's soul, Sam needs to fake it, and Dean will act as Sam's conscious. So that's the plan.
Okay. This was a crazy conversation though, because I felt, I don't know, maybe it was just kind of the rhythm of it or something, but I felt like they hadn't had a conversation like this long in a long time.
Yeah, there were a lot of back and forths actually in this episode in general. I thought.
True. Yeah. So there was like a
Mhm.
really long conversation between them about all of this. And I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm getting, thrown around here. Like it was just a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you caught this, but in this conversation, Sam said something like, old Sam had a soul. And he's like, actually, or old Sam was a soul.
I did catch that. Thank you. That's what I wanted to bring up. And then Dean said, like, yeah, and whether you don't have a soul / aren't now.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Like he was a soul and now he's not a soul?
Yeah, I think
What does that mean?
I have no idea. It seems as if they're trying to separate the fact that either a soul is a piece of you versus a soul is a version of you.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why they did that.
I don't either. I totally caught that too and was like, "Whoa, what? We haven't talked about that."
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely the first time that they said it, but I don't know. Maybe they'll continue that, or maybe that has some sort of relevance later on. Who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe. It was interesting.
Mhm. They go into a local watch shop where Patrick's father is working. His name is Mr. Brennan, as they refer to him for the rest of the episode. So, Brennan lets slip that he believes Patrick was taken. He didn't just disappear. And Sam really starts to like lay into him that he may know something if he's so sure that he was taken. Dean stops him, and Mr. Brennan changes his tune to say that he knows the chances of seeing Patrick drop after 72 hours. That's really why he's so sure that he won't see Patrick again. And Dean thanks him, and they leave, though Sam kind of lingers for a moment, wanting to say more. And after they leave, Mr. Brennan turns to the gold watch he was working on and asks if that was okay. And then the gold watch swings back and forth as if to say, yes, perhaps.
What?
Mm-hmm. Weird. Um,
Weird.
and it means that Sam was on it too, that his intuition was correct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and once outside, Dean does agree with Sam. He says that the guy's definitely hiding something and asks Sam to watch him while Dean goes to check out the crop circles. But he tells him not to do anything without his command since he doesn't want him making any judgment calls. Sam says he was without Dean basically for an entire year and he did fine, but Dean's like, "Yeah, I don't know about that. About your definition of fine."
Oh, and I'm so glad Dean said that. Because I was already thinking it, like, okay, good. Yes, Dean, you need to just like be making the calls right now because he's gonna do some silly shit and kill somebody who doesn't deserve it. And then he was like,
Yeah.
I did this without you. And I was like, oh God, yeah, what did you do?
Yeah, what did he do? That's a great
Yeah.
question.
I don't trust you.
Um, so at the crop circles, Dean gets a call from Sam. Apparently, Mr. Brennan is only drinking, it seems, as he's followed him to a local bar. Just then, the lights on Dean's Impala shut off and he hears a noise. He's already out in the cornfield. And a bright light shines above him and he runs into the corn trying to get away from it. He starts yelling into the phone, UFO, UFO, close encounter. And Sam just thinks it's like a joke. It was so strange.
He's like, okay.
Well, and then he says, like, third kind already? You better run. Fourth kind is a butt thing.
He just doesn't care.
No, he doesn't. And this is kind of what I meant, like, as far as when I was watching this part, I was like, Sam is acting very strange. Like, I know he doesn't have a soul, but this is a little weird. And later on is when I was kind of like, oh, yeah, they're totally like hamming it up
Oh, you're
for their
so totally
characters.
right. I feel like I need to watch it again just so I can appreciate that. That's happened in a few of these episodes. Like I find out, when we talk about it that there was something else happening there and I'm like, fuck, I feel like I need to watch it again through this lens.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, Sam, who's completely unfazed again, asks the waitress for another beer. And then Dean gets caught in an open space. The light catches him and he disappears. Sam just hangs up the phone, gets his other beer, and checks out the waitress like nothing happened.
Like really checks her out.
Oh, oh my God.
Hardcore.
Sam in this episode checking out ladies
What a
is
horn
like,
dog.
well, it is not just that he's such a horn dog, but it's like a parody of like Dean checking out ladies because he like cocks his neck to like really check out like all of the waitresses' asses,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of like stares at it for a moment and kind of makes his face like, oh yeah, 10 out of 10, or
This like appreciative face.
yes, it's so ridiculous. Uh, so cut to Sam at the crop circles finding Dean's phone. He comes upon an encampment of alien believers with their funky RVs and telescopes, and they're just like a bunch of hippies. Oh my God. It's just like a
So awesome.
congregation of them. Yeah. Um, Sam goes up to Wayne, the interviewer from the beginning, and he has like an RV with a bunch of newspapers and articles like posted up all over it. He asks Wayne how would he hunt these aliens? And Wayne hands him some documents with eyewitness accounts. Sam says he doesn't need proof. His brother was abducted. He's got the proof already. Well, a woman, one of the ones that had been interviewed in the beginning also, comes over to see what's going on and hears Sam mention, oh, that his brother is missing. She asks if he's okay, and Sam says that he's had time to process already. And she asks if it happened when they were kids, and Sam says no, it happened like an hour and a half.
No,
Oh,
it
I'm
like
sorry,
just happened.
Yeah, a half hour ago, actually. And she's, like, obviously super confused.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, and a couple things I forgot to mention was that when this when this hippie lady like first showed up and was talking, what did she say exactly? Like in the beginning, she was like, like we just need to be like in touch with these beings because they're going to take us into the future. I was like, oh God, she's me.
Oh my
I was
god.
like, oh my God, this lady is totally me. So
Uh,
that was hilarious. And then, yeah, another reference when from a movie when I think we may have passed another one too, but I can't remember what it was. But when they first, when Sam goes into this like camp where they're all set up,
mhm.
there's music playing that is like the tune from the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's like a famous tune that in the movie that they have to play, and that's how they communicate with the third kind. Um, but it's not exactly like the tune, and I wonder if that's because of like rights or something. So the notes are kind of like off a little bit. But
Mm,
just an FYI that's what that's from.
very interesting. Yeah, it's funny because, like, this whole scene, this hippie chick and whatever, like, these things that she says are so, and the encampment especially is so, like, 90s, 2000, like, I just think of,
Hmm.
like, Independence Day and that sort of thing, really,
Totally.
like, I feel like it was really popular back then, but thinking of, like, a modern day version of that is, like, Grimes, for
Oh
example.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
what's her, that song that she came out with, sometime last year, I think, about it's basically a song, all about, like, you need to when the aliens come, you need to just let them, like, do what they say and that sort of thing.
Oh dang! Just do whatever they tell
Yeah,
you.
basically.
And
That's
she's married
essentially
to
what it's all
Elon Musk.
well, there you go. Yeah,
Uh,
and
he's gonna take
it
us
makes
into
a lot of
space.
sense.
Yeah, it does. Also, he's real weird.
Yeah, I think they have very similar, thoughts about all of that.
Uh,
Um, well, let's see. So Sam goes on to tell Wayne pretty meanly that perhaps he just sucks at hunting UFOs if he doesn't have any other helpful information. And he leaves, but the girl follows Sam and says she'd like to help.
and then gives
And
him
she
a
kind of,
big ol' smile.
oh, yes. It's very much like, I can help you with whatever you want kind of
Teehee.
thing. And Sam just smiles back at her. Uh, Back at the crop circle, Dean reappears shooting his gun, looking completely freaked out. He's got like his gun in one hand and then his friggin' like a knife, like a little knife in the other hand. And oh my god, he's like totally freaking out.
Yeah, he's like
Um,
mid-attack.
yeah. And he looks around and he realizes where he's at. Um, but then we see Dean get back to the motel room where he finds Sam and the hippie girl having sex. And Dean's like, "What the hell? Like, what the hell's going on?" And she's like, "Oh my God, Dean, you're back. Yay."
Yeah. And Sam's like, "Oh, Dean." And Dean's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. And cut to her leaving, only to like really quickly ask Dean how it was. But he's like, it's too soon.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't.
She's also like, "It's okay, Sam. I understand. You need this time to be with family."
Yeah. Oh God.
It's so funny.
Um, well, Dean shuts the door behind her as she leaves, and Sam has enough empathy at this point to realize that Dean is upset. Um, Basically, of course, he's upset because instead of looking for him, he was busy getting with Alien Girl
Getting busy.
and getting real busy. And Dean says it only felt like he was gone for an hour at least,
Hmm.
which, I mean, if he's mad about that, then he would be really mad the fact that he's actually been gone for a lot longer.
Yeah. Just wait until you find out how long you've actually been gone.
Yeah. So he says that there was this bright light and that there were some beings, some other like entities that pulled him toward a table. And Sam's like, the probing table? And Dean's like, don't say that out loud. And Dean says he started firing his gun and fighting back, and that they seemed surprised, like as if nobody has ever done that before. And he said that he's very proud of himself. He says, I had a close encounter and I won.
He looks very proud of himself too. Real smug.
He does. Yeah. And then Sam's like, I think you need a shower. And Dean's like, yeah, I need a shower.
I thought it was funny when Dean was, talking to Sam, like getting mad about him having sex with the hippie girl, and Sam was like, I didn't think she smelled that bad. Oh,
Oh,
yeah, because Dean was like, and you're over here getting it on with patchouli or whatever.
oh right.
So mean.
Oh, I know. And apparently, like, soulless Sam can't read, like, sarcasm or jokes. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
he's like, what? No.
he was especially soulless at times during this, like, robotic, even, in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the next day, the two are eating breakfast, where Dean is freaking out about the reality of aliens existing on top of everything else that they know exists. And of course, Sam again gets distracted by the waitress, checks out her ass once again. So ridiculous. Um, Sam explains to Dean that he had exhausted his resources and it wasn't like he could just sit alone in the dark and think about Dean. And Dean's like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. And Sam's like, well, what's wrong with having sex with this hippie chick? It would be in the dark after all. And Dean explains that if he had a soul, he would have understood, the fact that Dean's gone and he would want to suffer in the dark alone. And Sam kind of goes back at him and says, well, does that mean that a soul equates suffering?
I was
And
like,
Dean,
oh, damn.
well, yeah, that's another existential or philosophical question for us to answer.
Yeah.
And because Dean's even like, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Sorry, Sam. We need you to suffer. Suffer with us.
Yeah, yeah, that's why you were always crying because you were suffering
Mm-hmm.
happily with your soul.
Right.
And Sam kind of calls Dean out on this. He says, oh, like the million times that you almost called Lisa.
Mm.
Mwah. Um, Well, Sam accepts this. Okay, soul equals suffering. Great. But how do we deal with these aliens in the meantime? Dean says, okay, let's research. And they get up to go. But then he catches this creepy guy with like a beanie. And he looks kind of like transient. He has kind of dirty clothes on, just staring at him through the window. He points him out to Sam, and Sam apparently can't see him. And all of a sudden, he just disappears like the next time that Dean looks over.
Yeah. And I like how Dean just immediately was like, who's that guy? Sam's like, what guy? He's like, that guy. He's like, that other guy? And he's like, no, that guy right there. And they have this like long back and forth where it should be pretty obvious that Sam is not seeing the guy. But then Dean looks
Right.
back and he's like, oh, well, he's gone, so it's fine. Never mind.
Yeah, he just kind of passes it off.
Just blows it off, yeah.
I am assuming that this guy was some sort of reference as well to X-Files, but I didn't see anything in the Supernatural wiki.
I don't know. Maybe. Also, I don't exactly know who he was even supposed to be in the episode. Is he like the leprechaun henchman or something?
Yeah, that was very unclear. Like extremely unclear. I just wonder if they just ran out of time or something cuz that was very strange.
Yeah, maybe so. I would have liked some explanation there. I
Yeah.
kept waiting for it and it didn't come.
Yeah, I really thought well, we'll get to it. I think in that scene. It's very strange.
Okay.
So we see Dean doing some research on the web. And you can tell it's the web and not the internet because the windows look really old. In the background, this is where we hear Space Oddity play, and Dean hears it, and the lights start to flicker. They suddenly go out, and a bright light appears at the window and bursts the door open. And a little twinkling, floating light stays in the doorway at first. And then Dean goes for his gun, and the light suddenly zooms over and stops him from grabbing his gun by like appearing in front of him. And Dean starts like staring at it really closely and getting closer and closer. And he's like, nipples?
I didn't know what he said at first. Like, I thought that maybe he said nipples, and then I was like, no, he can't have said nipples.
Yeah. And it's a funny effect because he just says like nipples and then all of a sudden they like turn up Space Oddity and the light just attacks him, knocks him against the wall. And they kind of go back and forth. He's fighting this what we later learn is a fairy. And he manages to lock it inside the microwave, turns the microwave on, and it explodes inside.
That was so hilarious. That was very clever, but he's clearly like so proud of himself. Like he does this and then he's like, ha!
Yes, that's right. So,
Yeah.
um, so next scene, we see Sam staring into the microwave, but he doesn't see anything, and we see his perspective in that it's completely clean, this microwave. Um, and then Dean's like, What do you mean? It's right there." And we see now Dean's perspective, and there's like blood chunks everywhere inside this microwave. Dean explains what he saw was a hot naked lady with nipples. Sam is like, "Okay, did this naked lady have wings?" And they realize, "Oh, it's not UFOs, it's fairies." So that lady from the beginning wasn't crazy after all.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
I feel like we all know this lady. At
Oh,
le-
totally.
There's like at least one
We have
that we
all met
know.
her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because this lady's RV is covered with fairy decorations everywhere, little statues, little things that hang from the ceiling. Um, she points out little trolls and other little creatures that are apparently considered fairies also because they are from a fairy world. And only people who have been taken into the fairy world can see fairies when they return. And apparently, they only like to take firstborn sons. Um, they kind of are probing her for all these answers, but doing so in a way where they obviously just feel so silly, except, I mean, especially Dean, who's like, okay, well, why do these fairies take the firstborn sons? And she says that she believes they're being taken to Avalon to serve Oberon, king of the fairies.
And I'm sorry,
And
to service.
oh, you're right. That's a
Just
big distinction.
just to point that out. Yeah. Mm.
to service. Because in fact, Sam does turn to Dean and go, Dean, did you service Oberon, King of the Fairies?
And he doesn't answer.
No, he doesn't.
By the way, he looks like he's like having PTSD flashbacks and deliberately does not answer.
Yeah, it's funny because like in his representation of what happened when he was taken, it seems as if he was led to this table and he started fighting before anything happened. But I don't know. There's a lot of instances where it seems as if, like, for example, Dean really wanted to take a shower and this and that. I don't know. I think he might have serviced Oberon or something might have happened to Dean that
I
we don't know.
I agree. Something went
Mhm.
down. Wait.
Yes. Exactly.
I didn't mean Anyway.
Um Well, okay, this lady, I don't know why the fuck she knows all about these fairies, but she's giving them all sorts of information.
I don't
She
either.
says, if you want to gain a fairy's favor, leave a bowl of fresh cream out. Um, but apparently fairies hate iron. Dark fairies burn with silver. And if you spill sugar or salt, the fairy must count all grains, like all of the grains immediately. They'll just
So funny.
stoop down and do it. So strange. Um, and they are about to leave when she urges them to finish their tea, and so they have to stick around for like 2 more minutes to like down their tea in these little cute cups.
And Sam wants like more tea. He's like, "Do you have any bigger cups?"
Yeah. I really thought like she was gonna end up being evil or something, that the tea drinking was gonna set up them being knocked out.
Oh yeah, that could have easily been a thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
It's always suspicious when they insist that you drink your tea.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. And otherwise, like, how does she know all of this, you know? I thought she was gonna be like the fairy, um, I don't know, servant or something.
Yeah, I don't know. She's the fairy godmother. She's got the in. She knows what's up.
Yeah, she does. Um, so they leave, Dean shaking glitter off of himself, and Sam suggests actually calling Bobby, which they don't do. So they don't bother Bobby this episode again. They spot at that moment across the street Mr. Brennan buying caseloads of cream. Uh, Not suspicious at all.
Mm-mm.
So they follow him back to the watch store and stake him out. Sam is told to follow Mr. Brennan because he actually ends up leaving the watch store while Dean goes to check out the inside. And once inside, he sees very strange. He sees these little guys working on the watches inside the store.
Yeah, they're literally. I thought it was funny the way they did it because they're literally like the proportion of like normal grown human men, but they're just small. They're like 5 inches tall.
Mhm. Yeah, it was very strange. It also looked like I was trying to check out the proportions. It didn't seem as if they were super small. Like that fairy thing that was floating inside or in front of Dean
Yeah,
um seemed smaller.
yeah, agreed. Like maybe that's a different kind.
That's true.
Maybe
Because
she's like
these
a
guys,
Tinkerbell kind, and these little guys are like fucking Keebler elves.
yeah, yeah. Because these guys did not have like wings or anything like that. Also,
Right. Yeah.
that's
These
totally
are like
possible.
Santa's elves.
Mhm. Yeah. I I think this I mean, that seems like as if maybe the universe of like Elf lives within this universe as well.
Yeah. Oh, I hope that happens.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Um, so he sneaks out, calls Sam, and is wondering basically if Brennan made a deal with the fairies. So Sam, who has him tailed in the bar again, goes up to him and tells him how stunning the watches are. Um, so again, this is like so strange the way that Sam actually questions him because
Yeah.
he says, "What I can't figure out is how one man can put out that much product. I mean, hell, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were a." I can't even say it. I'd say you have a bunch of elves working for you. Except I do know better. And you have a bunch of elves working for you.
He's so like angry.
I know. It's so, oh my God, so over the top.
Yeah, it's totally absurd. But it was very funny.
Yeah. Um, and he asks, how could a father trade a son for watches? And Mr. Brennan says it wasn't like that. Although that's kind of how it was.
Isn't it? Yeah. It is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a bad dad.
I know. And because Brennan ends up explaining that he was losing his hands to arthritis. He was basically going to lose his entire livelihood. But what the fuck did I just say? His grandmother had taught him how to summon the fairies. So he did it. And the man said he was a leprechaun. He
So
asked,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. So yeah, it's exactly like that because I'm sorry, he was gonna have to like retire.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it.
And you traded your son to the fairies.
Right.
Cool, Dad. Great.
Yeah. It
Anyway.
was tough. Because
Yeah.
right, like you said, the leprechaun said that he would cure his hands. Um, and not just that he would make him very, very successful if he just granted them his firstborn along with others.
No
So
biggie.
I was really expecting him to say, like, he told me all I had to do was let him live on the land or something like that. I didn't know that he was going to do that. But no, this guy's like fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he made a bad deal.
Yeah. Um, well, at the same time, we see Dean walking down the street, and that old guy, again with the beanie, is staring at him. Um, and this is okay. This is the scene that I wanted to talk to you about because at first I thought it was going to be something where like this is Dean, but like an older version of him or something like an alternate, like a dark form or a doppelganger or something,
Mm-hmm.
because he he stops in the street once Dean notices this guy, and then he turns to start walking again, and the guy, the old man, turns exactly the same way that Dean does and walks exactly the same way that Dean does,
Mm-hmm.
as if he's like mirroring his movements.
Right. Yeah. I was already, obviously from the earlier scene, we're wondering who this guy is.
Hmm.
But from this scene, it seemed like there was going to be a lot more to it. Like, why has he. I don't know. And I guess maybe because Dean was the one who was quote unquote abducted. Is this guy That's why he's singling Dean out and tailing him, but who the fuck is he? And why is he
Yeah.
doing this weird thing? They do this weird, that mirroring thing, and Dean's like testing him. Like he starts walking a little bit, and the guy walks a little bit, and then he walks some more, and the guy does the same thing. I I don't know. It was very weird.
It was very weird. I don't know. I thought maybe an explanation would come that I don't know that this was obviously a fairy who had followed Dean back through the portal or whatever and
Right.
something. But yeah, we don't get any of that. It's so weird.
Nothing. We get nothing. And that's what I assume. Like, that's what you have to assume. Like, he was sent to get Dean or something.
Hmm.
But it's very vague.
Yeah.
Because then he just beats him up in the cell later. He doesn't, I don't know, try to
Yeah, he
take him
doesn't
anywhere or do anything in particular other than
Mhm.
beat him up.
Yeah, exactly. So weird. Um, so we see Dean continue to walk, like all freaked out. He's acting very strange. She's walking very exaggerated. It's pretty funny. Great Jensen Ackles moments in this episode, just in general.
Totally.
So funny. And, again, I really love the directing in this part because we get this shot of Dean where the camera is like right in front of him and it's like kind of moving along with him. We don't see that very often or at all, I should say, in Supernatural.
True.
It was almost as if he was like wearing a camera.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I think it adds to like the claustrophobia, but also like the silliness and the just again the exaggeration of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean turns into an alleyway and then walks down it, and the guy's still following him. But then he rounds a corner to hide behind a wall. And just then, another man walks out of the alleyway and Dean tackles him, but it's the wrong guy. And we see a bunch of people just all of a sudden appear. They're like crowding around him, watching him. And then the guy's family stares in horror, and this little girl goes, "Daddy." And Dean lets go of him, and the guy stands up. And we see that he's a little person, and Dean because this entire time Dean has been saying or yelling, God, what does he say? Like, "You fairy, I'm gonna get you, you fairy," or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And Dean sees this guy, sees he's not the man who's following him, and is just like, "Ah, just kidding."
Stupid face. Just kidding.
Oh my god.
And I guess it was because they were kind of playing those exaggerated Sam and Dean characters, but you can't help but go like, "Oh, why didn't he just say this or whatever?" And I was like, he should have just said, "Oh, I thought you were somebody else. I thought I was being followed and you were this other guy."
Right, yeah.
But no, instead he's like,
Um
"Sorry."
Well, and he makes it worse because we next see him, like, getting thrown in the cop car, and Sam and Brennan find him, and he's just yelling at Sam, "Fight the fairy, Sam! Fight the fairies!"
Like
And
screaming.
right, and later on, in the next scene, we do see, like, the cop questioning Dean and basically saying, like, they're thinking about charging him with a hate crime.
Right, because
Uh,
he thought that,
he's
I don't know,
Mhm.
Dean was going after that guy because he thought he was gay.
So back in the watch store, Mr. Brennan sneaks Sam in and uses a book to call upon the fairies while Sam readies himself with a gun. Suddenly, Brennan is stabbed from the back by Wayne, who's the leprechaun. Dun dun dun. He was there all
What?
along. And he has a pretty smart cover story, right? So the fairies have appeared but he's stirring shit up with all of these UFOs. And
Mhm.
everyone is eating it all up except for the one crazy fairy lady. Um, so Wayne disappears and says, like Sam can only get him if he can actually see him, and he can't see him. And again, like Sam is very exaggerated, like born identity in this scene. He's like, well, I can sense you, and at one point you have to get close to me, um and Wayne reappears and says that Sam is missing a certain piece. And apparently, that fairy folk are all about energy, and souls give off a certain perfume. But he says something like his soul is like far away from him, but it's not completely gone. Like it's not so far that it can't be returned, basically.
So
And
crazy. We're learning so
yeah,
much.
yeah, totally. Because Sam's like, "Oh, what? Like you can go get it? It's in hell in a cage with Lucifer." Seriously. He kind of teases him.
Mhm.
And Wayne says, "Well, yeah, but that's your devil. I can totally get your soul. We have powerful magic, but it comes with a price." Yeah.
Of course it does.
Mhm. And I don't know that we don't get what that price is, right? Sam doesn't really let him say it.
Yeah, no, I don't think we got that far.
Mm. But Sam does say something, another really ridiculous thing that I wanted to mention. Oh, it was earlier when he says, like, I already mentioned this, but he's like, but you'll have to get near me eventually, and I have very good reflexes.
Yeah,
That was a ridiculous line.
totally.
Um, so Sam actually in this conversation is able to distract Wayne. He shoots him and he disappears. And we get this intercut between Wayne kicking Sam's ass and Dean getting his ass kicked by the guy who's been following him, who has suddenly appeared in the jail cell. And this is where it's like, wait a second, we're not getting any explanation of what this guy is or who he is.
Right. He's just kicking the shit out of Dean for no reason. I don't understand.
Yeah. But then Sam, always thinking, pulls out that little vial of salt, pours it onto the floor, and Wayne is just like, God damn it, and drops his weapons, bends over, and starts counting.
So
Um,
funny. His mad face is so hilarious. He's just looking at him like, God, oh, why did you do this?
yeah, exactly. Oh my God. And Sam picks up the book that Brendan was reading from, reads the incantation, and with like poof, Wayne disappears and the guy that was fighting Dean disappears. It's so funny because it finished so quickly,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I know. And they caused so much trouble.
Yeah.
And killed a lot of people and shit. And all we had to do was make them count some salt.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. That's
So
all you had to
funny.
do. And thanks to the crazy fairy lady too, you know?
Oh yeah, she totally saved the day.
So we cut to Sam and Dean drinking beers in front of the Impala in like the middle of some field road. Um, Dean wonders if the leprechaun could have actually gotten his soul back. And Sam says he doesn't know, but the reason he didn't is because deals like that aren't ever good. There's obviously something that he was going to
Yeah.
get from it.
Yeah, and I thought that was smart. Like, even though we don't know what the deal would have been, we didn't really need to know. I was kind of with Sam on this one. As soon as Wayne started saying, I can do that for you, but with a price. It's kind of like, oh, okay, like enough with the deals already.
Mhm.
We've kind of had it up to our eyeballs with demon deals, and
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
just enough of that. It doesn't ever work out.
Well, and I guess we don't really know, though, if that's why he decided not to take it, because Dean checks and says, he asks Sam, "You're not having second thoughts about getting your soul back, are you?" And Sam says, "No, of course not." But then kind of like looks around thoughtfully.
Yeah. Yes, and then we definitely got the sense from that exchange that he kind of is having second thoughts.
Mhm.
And I'm not really
Yeah.
sure why. Um I mean, he's talked about how he thinks, life was harder for the other Sam because he had feelings and morals. um I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me because I think it's even in this episode, Sam says, "I was a better hunter." And he's
Right.
said that before too. I think he truly believes that he has been a better hunter this past year without his soul.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we've talked about, especially last episode, about why would Sam even want his soul back if he's doing a great job hunting and it's kind of worked out for him,
Yeah.
and he has no empathy, he has no like feeling for his soul. What's the point for him?
Mhm. Right. He would basically just be doing it for Dean, I think.
Yeah, totally. Completely. Um yeah, and otherwise he has no other reason to get it back. So, I don't know. I think in the end, it was a fun episode. It was a
Yeah.
funny episode. Um I'm trying to think, like, what did it teach us about Sam? I guess just that, right? That he just maybe doesn't actually want his soul back, which not surprising to me.
Yeah, same. Not surprising to me either. It does kind of go back on what they decided most recently about it, the direction they wanted to go and trying to get his soul back and why. Um, but I don't know. It seemed like Soulless Sam had a lot of fun being soulless in this episode.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he was like really mean. He got with hippie chick and was checking out a lot of butts and
Mm-hmm.
having beers. Yeah, he was having a lot of fun.
He had a grand old time. So I don't know. Like maybe we're supposed to see him like really appreciating the way things are now that he doesn't have a soul and like kind of enjoying that and being like, why do I want to do this again?
Mhm.
But you're right. I mean, not surprising. I don't think we found out anything totally new about him. The only kind of new information in general was just about the fairy lore and how their magic works, and that it's totally separate from like the heaven and hell that we are acquainted with. Um, and they could get his soul back apparently, even though it's in Lucifer's cage with Lucifer.
Right. Yeah.
So all of that was very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely makes it seem as if whatever they're trying to do, as far as getting his soul back isn't totally out of reach, and
Right.
maybe perhaps they don't need to rely on Crowley to do it for them.
Hmm. There
Maybe
are
there
other
is
ways.
some other ways to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it was a fun episode too. It wasn't like awesome, it's not one of my like favorites, but I definitely had fun with it, and I thought it was directed well. And the characters were fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm looking at ranking. I don't know if you have any thoughts so far.
I'm kind of I hate that like all of these episodes are right in the center, all fit together. But it just makes me go back and think about like all of those other funny episodes, like Wishful Thinking and Tall
Same.
Tales and all of those. I think for me, I like this one better than what is like the most bottom on that list, which is Hollywood Babylon. But Bad Day at Black Rock, for example, I think is much better. Which is the White Rabbit's Foot episode.
Yeah.
And then Sam Interrupted. Oh, is the one in the last episode where they're in the mental hospital. I do like that one better.
Oh, where they...
Where Dean says, pudding!
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like it better than Hollywood Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a good spot for it.
Yeah, I think that's where it separates for me.
Same. That feels natural. And Sam Interrupted is at 71, so this will go in as the new number 72.
That's right. And that means that this one's going in the trunk. How many episodes do we have on here? 113. Wow.
Wow.
Crazy.
That is crazy. Phew.
I know. At some point we will have over 300 on this list. Is that right? Is my math correct?
Probably. Yeah, that's about right. Mm-hmm.
Insane. Well, I am excited about the next episode, Caged Heat, because it's, I think, a big episode. So we're going to get back to, we've had some really sad fun in the last episode with that poor dog. And
Yeah.
then and then some fun in this episode. But yeah, we're going to get back to all the stuff regarding Crowley, etc. in next episode, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Awesome.
But until then, you guys can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Highway to Hell Podcast. Please follow us, and that way you can respond, by like commenting or tweeting at us or whatever the kids do these days, and ask us any questions that you might have, or give us some feedback on the episodes. So that's been really helpful. Particularly like last week when we had a question about like the Bible, and someone provided us, I think Morgan provided us with some information that we did not have. So keep on sending those thoughts over through those means. You can also email us at highwaytohellpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, just, check out our website where we have the ranking, and we have a link to our t-shirts. So we have t-shirts which are really cool. It's really cute. And yeah, leave us a rating or review. But that's pretty much it. Until next time, we'll see you on the highway to hell.
Bye.
Bye.